My wife openly humiliated and mocked me as a bartender at her own work party until the CEO later exposed I secretly owned everything.
My arrogant millionaire wife invited me to her work party just to make me serve cocktails, until her CEO said, "That's actually our CEO." My name is Graham, and for 3 years I lived inside a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. Luxury apartment overlooking the Thames, designer clothes hanging in wardrobes bigger than my childhood bedroom, chauffeured cars, charity galas, fine wine with labels I couldn't pronounce. My wife loved every inch of that life, especially the attention that came with it. She worked for one of the biggest hospitality corporations in Britain. At least, that's what everyone believed. Technically, she did. What nobody knew was that I owned the company. Not publicly, anyway. I'd inherited controlling shares from my grandfather long before I met her, but I never enjoyed flashing money around. I preferred anonymity, quiet investments, quiet meetings, quiet entrances through private lifts while others fought for recognition downstairs. When we met, she believed I was just another modest financial consultant with decent income and ordinary ambitions. I let her believe it. At first, her confidence attracted me. She was sharp, polished, magnetic in social rooms. The type of woman who could walk into a gathering and immediately own the atmosphere. I admired that about her. Then success turned her cruel. The more promotions she received, the colder she became at home. "Could you at least try dressing like someone successful?" She snapped once while adjusting diamond earrings in our bathroom mirror. I looked down at my plain navy jumper and smiled faintly. "I thought I was successful. That's exactly the problem," she replied. "You think comfortable is impressive. I should seen the warning signs then." But love makes excuses where wisdom would walk away. Over time, she stopped introducing me as her husband. I became Graham at parties, said with the same energy people used for drivers or assistants. At dinners with her colleagues, she constantly mocked my quiet nature. "Don't ask him about business," she laughed one evening as everyone sipped champagne. "He still thinks spreadsheets are exciting." The table erupted. I laughed too. That was the worst part. I laughed because I loved her enough to protect her from embarrassment, even when she never protected me from hers. Then came the invitation that changed everything. Her company was hosting its annual executive celebration at one of our flagship hotels in central London. A massive event attended by investors, regional directors, media partners, and senior leadership, including me, though she didn't know I planned to attend officially. 3 nights before the event, she stood in the bedroom doorway holding a sleek black invitation card. "You should come," she said casually. I looked up from my book. "Really?" "Yes. It'll be good for you to mingle with successful people for once." I ignored the sting in that sentence. "What's the occasion?" She smirked. "Celebrating growth numbers, bonuses, promotions. The usual things rich people enjoy. And what exactly would I do there?" Her eyes sparkled with something unpleasant. "Well, actually," she laughed. "One of the bartenders canceled last minute. Since you're always making drinks at home anyway, I told them my husband could help." I blinked slowly. "You want me to serve cocktails?" "It's not complicated, Graham. Pour drinks. Smile politely. You'll survive." "You invited me as staff?" "Oh, don't be dramatic," she sighed. "Good, you'll finally have something to do while I network." Then she laughed at her own joke. I stared at her for several seconds. Somewhere deep inside me, something cracked. Still, I agreed. Not because I enjoyed humiliation, because I wanted to see how far she would go. The night of the party arrived cold and rainy. Black cars lined the entrance of the hotel, while photographers captured executives stepping onto the crimson carpet beneath golden lights. I arrived separately through the service entrance. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. The event manager nearly fainted when he saw me carrying bartender attire. "Sir, what on earth are you doing?" "Playing along," I answered calmly. "Please don't interfere." Within minutes, I stood behind a polished marble bar wearing a white shirt and black waistcoat while London's elite filled the ballroom. And there she was. My wife entered wearing a silver gown that shimmered beneath the chandeliers. Conversations paused as she walked through the crowd, smiling confidently, accepting compliments like royalty receiving tribute. Then her eyes found me behind the bar. She burst out laughing. "Oh my God," she called loudly enough for nearby executives to hear. "You actually did it." Several people turned toward me. One man grinned. "Your husband?" "Yes," she said proudly. "Isn't he adorable?" "Adorable, not intelligent, not kind, not accomplished, adorable. Like a trained dog balancing on 2 legs." I kept mixing drinks quietly. More colleagues gathered around her. "This is brilliant," a woman laughed. "You brought your own bartender." My wife lifted her champagne glass. "Why waste money hiring strangers when I've already got one at home?" The group roared. I noticed younger employees exchanging uncomfortable glances, but nobody challenged her. Status has a frightening effect on weak people. They laugh with power even when they recognize cruelty. One executive approached the counter. "Whiskey sour," he ordered while smirking at me. "Try not to embarrass your wife." I made the drink perfectly. Years of attending private tastings with international clients had taught me more about cocktails than most professionals knew. The man took a sip and raised his eyebrows. "Bloody hell," he admitted. "That's actually excellent." "Of course it is," my wife interrupted. "He's had plenty of practice serving me." More laughter. My fingers tightened around the shaker. Still I said nothing. Hours passed. Humiliation became entertainment for the room. Every time someone needed a refill, she found a new joke. "Careful, he gets emotional around expensive alcohol. Don't let him near investors. He'll bore them with budgeting tips. At least tonight he looks useful." Each comment sliced deeper than the last. But then came the moment she pushed too far. A tall, gray-haired gentleman entered the ballroom surrounded by senior board members. Conversations shifted instantly. People straightened posture. Voices lowered. That man was the public face of the corporation. Officially, he was the global CEO. In reality, he answered to me. My wife immediately rushed toward him. "Sir," she exclaimed brightly. "So wonderful to finally see you tonight." He greeted her politely, though his eyes soon drifted toward the bar, toward me. His expression changed completely. Shock, then panic. He hurried across the ballroom. My wife followed behind him, confused but eager. The closer he came, the whiter his face became. "Sir," he whispered to me. "Why are you standing there?" The ballroom fell strangely quiet. I calmly placed a finished martini on the counter. "Just helping tonight." He looked horrified. Before he could stop himself, he turned toward the crowd and said the sentence that destroyed everything. "That's actually our CEO." Silence crashed through the ballroom. Complete silence. My wife froze beside him. "What?" she whispered. The executive swallowed hard. "Majority owner, chairman, chief executive, this company belongs to him." The champagne glass slipped from her hand. It shattered against the marble floor. Her face lost all color as she stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Around us, people looked mortified. The same colleagues who mocked me moments earlier suddenly avoided eye contact entirely. One woman covered her mouth. Another man quietly stepped backward into the crowd. My wife's lips trembled. "Graham, what is he talking about?" I removed the bartender apron carefully and folded it on the counter. Then I looked directly into her eyes. "The man pouring drinks tonight," I said calmly, "is the man who signs your bonus checks." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Her voice cracked. "You lied to me?" "No," I replied quietly. "You just never cared enough to ask." Tears gathered instantly in her eyes, but not from heartbreak, from terror. Because for the first time in our marriage, she realized the man she spent years humiliating had silently held all the power. And worse than that, I was finally done loving her. The silence after my words felt heavier than the shattered glass beneath our feet. Nobody in that ballroom knew where to look. Executives suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. Junior employees stared into their drinks. The musicians in the corner stopped playing entirely. My wife stood frozen beside the bar, her breathing uneven, mascara already beginning to smudge beneath her eyes. "Graham," she whispered, "please tell me this is some kind of joke." I looked at her calmly. "You've spent 3 years joking about me." I assumed tonight was comedy night. A nervous cough escaped somewhere in the crowd. The public CEO cleared his throat awkwardly. "Sir, perhaps we should continue this privately." "No," I replied. "Public humiliation seems important in this room. Let's not ruin the tradition." My wife flinched like I had slapped her. For the first time since I met her, she looked small, not elegant, not powerful, small. One of the regional directors stepped forward hurriedly. "We had no idea, sir. Absolutely none." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm not angry with most of you." My eyes shifted toward my wife, but some people knew exactly what they were doing. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know you owned the company. That was never the issue." The room stayed painfully silent. "You mocked me because you believed I had less money than you," I continued. "You reduced me to a servant because you thought status gave you permission." "I was joking," she said weakly. "Were you?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because deep down she knew the truth. Cruelty always hides behind humor once consequences arrive. The CCO beside her looked deeply uncomfortable. "Sir, perhaps I should escort Mrs." "No," I interrupted softly. "She can stand exactly where she wanted me standing all evening." Several people lowered their eyes immediately. I walked around the bar slowly, loosening my cuffs while the crowd parted automatically. Years of authority have a strange effect on rooms. People sense it before they understand it. When I stopped in front of her, she could barely meet my gaze. "How long?" she asked quietly. "My grandfather transferred ownership nearly 10 years ago. And you never told me? You never asked what I did after our third date. You only asked what car I drove." A few executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. She looked shattered now, not because our marriage was collapsing, because the social ladder she worshipped had suddenly flipped upside down beneath her feet. "I loved you," she whispered desperately. I smiled sadly. "No. You loved the version of me you thought stood beneath you." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I can change." Those 4 words almost made me laugh, not because they were impossible, because they arrived too late. People rarely change when they hurt you. They change when they fear losing access to you. I turned toward the executives gathered nearby. "Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Nobody here is losing employment over tonight." Relief visibly spread across several faces. "Except one person," I added. My wife inhaled sharply. The room stiffened again. "You're firing me?" she whispered. I looked directly into her eyes. "No, I'm divorcing you." Her knees nearly buckled. "You can't mean that." "I do." "Graham, please. For years, I defended you to friends who warned me. I excused every insult, every humiliation, every cruel little performance designed to impress strangers." She began crying openly now. "But tonight," I continued, "you invited your own husband to serve drinks so people could laugh at him. That isn't arrogance anymore. That's contempt." The musicians remained perfectly still in the corner, as if moving might somehow worsen the moment. My wife reached for my arm desperately. "Please don't do this here." I stepped back before she could touch me. "That's the difference between us," I said quietly. "I protected your dignity until the very end. You destroyed mine for entertainment." She covered her mouth, sobbing hard enough to shake. Part of me still hated seeing her cry. Love does not disappear instantly. It dies slowly, like a house collapsing room by room. But respect can vanish in seconds. The CEO approached carefully. "Sir, your car is ready whenever you wish." I nodded once. Then I looked at my wife for the final time. You once asked why I dress simply despite my success, I said. It's because money reveals character faster than poverty ever could. Her eyes closed painfully. And tonight, I finished, you revealed yours. I walked past the stunned crowd toward the ballroom doors while silence followed behind me like a shadow. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody made jokes. The only sound left in that magnificent room was my millionaire wife crying beside a broken champagne glass, finally understanding that the man she treated like nothing had quietly owned the entire world around her all along. 2 months later, the divorce dominated gossip columns, though my name never appeared publicly. She resigned before the board could review her conduct, disappeared from society events, and moved into a riverside flat far smaller than the penthouse she once bragged about. As for me, I finally discovered something wealth had never managed to purchase before: peace. I still visit that hotel occasionally. The bartenders always smile nervously whenever I walk in. Then they straighten their jackets, remembering the night a man secretly owning the entire building.
She laughed when I served cocktails, but when everybody revealed I was the main man, she froze.